Happy New Year from Welcome to the Wastes. It's been a bit of a crazy time. I did a live stream yesterday, kind of talking a little bit more about it. So here it is to check out if you missed it yesterday. And stay tuned to the end. There's a fun little surprise that you may have heard already, but in case you haven't, here you go. And yeah, really excited just going into the new year, into 2021. And really excited to bring you all along for the ride. So, enjoy, and we'll see you in the wastes. Okay, we are live. Perfect. Yeah. Fun. Exciting. So, welcome one and all to the first Welcome to the Wastes stream, I guess. Yeah, so this is gonna kind of be a little improvised, a little I don't know how to describe it. Anytime I've done a live video in my life, I used to do a whole bunch on Facebook where I was just cooking in my mom's old kitchen, and I was propping up my phone randomly and just, you know, cooking and talking at the camera for no particular reason. And now I have a reason, and now I don't even know what I'm gonna say. So that's all fucking fun. Yes, I'm gonna cuss during this, by the way. So, we're coming to the end of probably the crummiest year possible. Pandemic and lockdowns and all the stupidness of the world. But we're also coming to the end of the first year, or for first few months of Welcome to the Wastes. It has been such an insane ride to be putting out this podcast, to be writing this, to be editing, to be recording, to be today lighting and camera guy as well. And like it's pulling together a whole bunch of things that I've learned over the years. I went to film school for lighting and production and all that kind of fun stuff. I found I had a knack for writing scripts. I found I had a knack for weaving a story. And I also had a knack for editing, as has been evident through the evolution of the podcast, with each episode kind of getting a little more intuitive, with like sound effects and music and all that kind of stuff. And it's been amazing to have the people in my life that have been along for this ride. Like there's a bunch that I can name off the bat. You're actually all here in the chat too, which is great. So like having people like my partner, who has seen me through this whole pandemic, you know, go from just working out and playing video games to, you know, every afternoon I wake up, I work out, I go make myself some food. I mean, it's still noon by the time I'm doing all that stuff anyways, but and then I come in here and, you know, I sit behind my laptop and I write, or I record, or I'm editing. There have been actually a few times throughout this where I'm editing 3 episodes at the exact same time, because I've recorded enough content. So many thanks to her. Many thanks as well to Lindsay and Corey, my lovely, amazing, talented photographers who have also, both of your work has become thumbnails for episodes, and has been used to promote stuff, and is going to be ideally used in the first thing I'm going to announce today, actually. I got a button maker for Christmas, and we just ordered a new printer, which might be here tomorrow, might be here next week. We'll see, because Canada Post, of course. So with that, I'm going to be taking some of the photos that were taken, some of the thumbnails that Lindsay has done for me to use for the episodes, and I'm going to be printing them off and pressing them into buttons, which will be so much fun to do. I'm so excited to make little welcome to the waist buttons. They're only like an inch big, but like they're gonna look so fucking cool. I've already got a couple ideas in mind. In the Facebook group actually later today, I'm gonna toss up a few of the images that I'd like to turn into buttons and see what people think, which ones they prefer to see pressed into a button. And of course, when the pandemic loosens up and, you know, I can see people in person again, anyone in the area, like, you're gonna be getting buttons from me, just so y'all know. So yeah, many thanks all to you two for like going out with me when we could and taking those photos. It was so much fun. I still find myself every so often like just going through my phone and looking at the photo shoot sets and just being like, holy crap, I did that. I put that outfit on, those outfits on, and went out to these really awesome locations in downtown and at Ontario Place, and like, you guys made me look so friggin' cool. It's so badass. Way more badass than I feel in my day-to-day life. And then just a thank you to like every other friend who has like sat there with words of support, who I've messaged to be like, hey, you know, I'm working on the podcast, I'm doing this, and has like turned around and been like, yeah, like you're rocking it, you're killing it, and like listen to episodes and then message me and be like, I loved it. And to anyone who easy to do when the subject is fun. Oh. And to anyone that even doesn't know me personally, outside of this podcast, who has just found it and like listened to it, who has followed the page, I think as of today, I've hit 126 followers on the Welcome to the Waste Instagram, 55 on the Facebook page, and there's like another 20 or so of that number also in the Facebook group, which is kind of mind-boggling to me because I've had my personal Instagram for 7 to 8 years now and only just hit 300 followers. So the fact that I'm almost at half that amount in 4 months time is kind of crazy. So yeah, like just anyone who's offered any sort of support in any way, shape, or form, like you all have so much thanks for me going into this and doing this live video. Like that's why I wanted to do something like this. This is going to be saved to my, the video is going to be saved to my phone. I'm going to be putting it up on YouTube as well. Maybe edit in some sound effects and stuff here and there, because I can do that. So yeah, if you have any questions regarding the podcast or anything, feel free to ask them in the chat, and I'll answer them as they show up. Otherwise, I'm just gonna ramble at your faces. I feel before I continue to more announcements and stuff, I feel like kind of delving into how this podcast kind of came to life and how it became what it is now. So anyone who knows me in person knows I'm a huge, massive nerd. It is one of my defining features. And about a little over 5 years ago, I was introduced to the Fallout series of games. I had heard about them. I hadn't really shown much interest for a long while. The idea of like this post-apocalyptic future seemed really bleak and seemed really upsetting to me. Kind of stressed me out a little bit. But then I sat and played Fallout New Vegas, and I loved it. I wasted like a weekend and a half when I lived with my mom. I had my apartment to myself, and I sat and played Fallout New Vegas the entire time. So that was insane. And I really fell in love with it. And at Fan Expo that year, I went around to the vendors and I was like, I want to buy Fallout stuff. I want to buy handmade Fallout stuff. And so I found people making bottle caps. I thought that was really cool. And I took bottle caps home. It was just a couple of magnets. And I was like, oh, these seem really easy to make. Like, they just printed off the label, stuck it on, like, made it look all rough and, like, just Mod Podge to seal it all up. And so I started doing just that. I worked at a bar. So I was like, you know, I have an unending supply of bottle caps. The bartenders put a cup aside and just toss bottle caps in. So I started collecting bottle caps. I started kind of fashioning them. My first bottle cap I made on September 17th of 2015, I think. Yeah, 2015. Yeah, that sounds right. The plaque's outside my door, and I don't even remember. I walk past it every day. So yeah, I made my first bottle cap. It took me 45 minutes just to make one. And then I started making more and more and more and more. Eventually getting to the point where I can make a batch of 50 in under half an hour. Just kind of crafting at my kitchen table. And I made a whole bunch for the Fallout 4 midnight release. I was like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. And I handed them out in little baggies. Certain ones had star stickers on the underside as a nod to Fallout New Vegas, where you collect bottle caps that have little stars under them. And those stars, says, yeah, 9/17/15. So September 17th, 2015. Yeah, perfect. And I handed them out at the midnight release party for Fallout 4. And I was done up, like, blue dress shirt, vest, had a bunch of bottle caps that I had fashioned into buttons for myself all over my vest. And it got to the point where even the staff was like, oh, do we have to give this guy something? Was he sent from, like, Bethesda? Like, they didn't realize. I was like, no, I'm just a fan. Like, I'm a huge fan. And through making the bottle caps, like, I listened to a lot of podcasts. I listened to a lot of music on my phone. And I kept having this idea in my head of, like, oh, you know, like, there's the radio DJ 3 Dog in Fallout 3, which I had also played by that point. I was like, oh, like, wouldn't it be really cool to do, like, a podcast like that, where you're just a radio DJ, you're like a DJ in the middle of the wasteland, just transmitting out news and reporting on stuff. And I ran into a bunch of hiccups throughout my life, throughout the next year and a bit. And that idea really fell to the wayside. And then I went through a really rough patch in my life, and I rediscovered Fallout as a way of kind of rebuilding myself. And I took this idea of a post-apocalyptic wasteland where you can kind of do whatever you want, essentially. And I kind of took it to heart with being me again and rediscovering who Edward was. And through that, I kind of developed this kind of nickname for my online stuff of Grim Grinner. Because online I go by Edward Grimm, which is an old story from film school, actually, so that's really pulling film back into this. And the fact that I love to laugh and love to smile, and I used to cosplay as the Joker, so I was like, Grinner, haha. And so I kind of amalgamated that and went with it again. And then, you know, life gets in the way, and I was working and all this kind of stuff, but I was still kind of like crafty here and there. Like, I think for like a work Christmas thing, I made like a big bottle cap and wrote a story about a fictional vault and stuff like that. One sec, I'm going to drink some coffee to soothe my throat, oddly enough. So, Fallout 76 came out a while ago, and EB Games and stuff started getting a ton of Fallout merch, and I started going and buying all of it. spending money that I really shouldn't have been spending. Or I shouldn't have been able to afford these things. But I still went and bought them because they are really cool. Like, they're really big props and stuff. And it was at the same EB Games where I had done the Fallout 4 Midnight release. And I ended up becoming kind of known around there for Fallout stuff. Like, they even started holding merch for me. And, like, I gave them my number. And they're like, hey, we've got this new thing. Do you want us to hold it? I was like, oh, cool. Badass Women of Colors characters. Totally going to look into doing more of that in future episodes. I mean, most of the characters I've addressed so far have at least been badass women, but I've never really determined their skin color yet, so they can totally be women of color. I'm more than okay with making some of the characters women of color. Anyways, so yeah, I started becoming known around that EB Games as the guy that had all the Fallout stuff, and ended up winning the Giant Vault Boy, who I'm sure most of you have seen in my Instagram posts here and there, who is currently decorated for the holidays. Fast forward from that point to pandemic hitting, and me kind of trying to figure out what to do when I can't really go out, I can't really work a job. And through a love of D&D, I discovered a love of voice acting. And so I started amassing equipment for voice acting. I got a microphone, I got a really nice headset, I got a laptop, I got soundproofing stuff, all that kind of stuff to try with voice acting. And with all the things that I was writing out for like characters I wanted to voice, I started writing out other things that I wanted to do. I was like, oh, you know, I see a lot of people doing podcasts. I was like, maybe I should do mine. So one weekend, sitting here at home typing things out, I wrote up and worked on a small little script that was just like, okay, like what if I'm just a guy who's found some equipment and got it working and transmits out this like help message. I worked on it, I started sounding it, I downloaded my editing software, and I put it together into this little, like almost like a 30-second teaser. And it was really interesting to see the responses to it, because the way I edited it, I had this moment at the end where all of the background audio cuts, and it's my voice going, is there anyone out there? Anyone? And I loved it. It was one of the first things that sent chills down my spine of something I had put together. And from there I was like, okay, I need to start writing the story then of this character. I need to start writing Grim Grinner as a character separate from me now. As much as my moniker online is still that, the character for Welcome to the Waste is me, but not me. There are a lot of aspects of me, obviously, but there are still aspects that are very much what I wish I would be in the Wastelands. And then 4 or 5 months later, here we are. Like, I think I started working on that tail end of July, and then really started putting my all into it throughout August. I remember cat sitting for my mom and literally just sitting at her dining table editing together the first trailer, the first proper trailer for Welcome to the Wastes. And then I think when I was at home, I recorded the video and edited that together and put that up. And then the story has kind of been evolving from there. It originally started out just like, oh, like what if it's just this one guy? And then I was like, oh, you know, it can't just be one guy. And I added CJ, and you've all now started to hear her cropping in here and there, much to her dismay. But yeah, and now here we are, almost 4 months in, with 12 episodes up, including the most recent Christmas Carol, the 12 Days of Wastemas. And I'm still coming up with more stories. I've got, so stream exclusive, I've got the next, actually let me check. I've got my laptop open just because there is something on here. Scripts. So we have ended off with 20.7 CORP, which was a literal, like, that came to me. I was supposed to be releasing episode 7, which is going to be coming out next week, called The Med Bay. And it was going to pick up a couple hours, maybe a day or two after The Wastes ends. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm going to release that. And then I saw what the release schedule looked like. I'm like, oh, that's going to come out on Christmas. I don't really want to release an episode like that on Christmas quite yet. Despite the fact that it is an episode, I'm introducing a character in it who is a tribute to my grandmother, who passed away last year, and who always encouraged me for my creative endeavors. She was probably, like, even above my own mom. I love my mom to death, but my grandmother and my grandfather, I think, have always been my biggest fans, even more so than her. So this upcoming episode that's going to be coming out next week, I am acknowledging a character who is based around her. And her story is one of strength, and so that it really means a lot to me, this episode coming up. But I didn't feel like it was right to release it on Christmas, and I was like, okay, I want to take a small break. I want to take a little mini hiatus, but I don't want to just leave it on how The Wastes ended, with Grim kind of injured. Oh, she's absolutely badass. Like, super badass. And so I kind of sat down one night, and I was like, you know, this is me rambling. So I'm really into the album Danger Days, The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys by My Chemical Romance. And they introduced this idea of, like, a post-apocalyptic wasteland, brightly colored rebels fighting against this weird evil corporation called Better Living Industries. And that's a little bit of where I took the inspiration for the corporations from. So I was like, you know, I really want to have fun with the idea of the corporations. And originally I was thinking, oh, I'll have something in the later seasons to do with them. And then I was like, no, I have to do something involving them now. And in the course of an afternoon, I wrote the episode, and I did so many takes trying to record it, because I had to get it just right. I really wanted it to sound artificial, so I kind of put on my manager customer service voice, which is a little higher, little more polite, but like that, like dead behind your smile politeness. And then I filtered the hell out of it to try and really make it sound fake. And I was writing that, and I was like, okay, this is a really cool episode. To kind of leave it on, really leave it ambiguous as to the fate of Grim. And then I was like, no, this is going to be like my mid-season finale. And mid-season finale always has to leave on a cliffhanger. So that's why at the very end of the episode, I toss in that little whispered, staticky, you know, welcome to the Wastes. You think you can get rid of me? And tossing that in there, I actually kind of saw it. I actually have had to rewrite the next 4 scripts. So the Med Bay and the following 3 scripts, I actually had to rewrite them because that's pushing, that kind of inspired me to push some of the narrative for Grim Grinner in a different direction. So whereas up until now he's just kind of been this guy going through the wastes who really is opposed to the corporations and what they're doing. He's instead now kind of shifting his focus and going, okay, they want me to be this rebellious outlaw who's transmitting, who is the voice of the wastes. Fine, I'm gonna be that, because fuck them. So yeah, there is going to be a slight tone shift in how he kind of approaches anything to do with the corporations going forward, which I'm really excited to put in there. But the episodes are still going to be very much in line with the world, so it's going to be a lot of, you know, talking about the next outpost and where we're going next, and, you know, the route to Burblack, and then in a few episodes later, there's going to be another slight tone shift as I introduce a new really, really fucked up character that I'm really excited to come up with a voice and come up with distortions and stuff for. So yeah, that's where the podcast is going in particular. And that is going to segue into the next announcement. But before that announcement, because I gotta keep y'all on your toes, I'm going to do something kind of fun. It is going to require me tilting my camera. Hopefully I can do this without just like pointing it at my crotch. Does that work? That works. Oh, I'm losing my tripod. Nope, can't tilt the camera. Alrighty, so that's not gonna work. I was going to do a live kind of run of the Story Engine deck, which is this awesome little story building tool that a friend of mine, Peter, did up. Sorry, not level. Technology. It's a really neat story building tool. I highly recommend it. This is the box. It's really, really neat. I did a couple test runs with the specific booster, Wastelands and Wanderers, which is a lot of fun. I'm actually going to be using it more and more to help me weave new stories going in through the podcast. So the way it kind of works, I guess I'm not going to do live demo because it really needs the visual. You have like characters, items, like things that we need to find. You have conflicts, you have descriptors, and you just kind of lay them out in different formations that are kind of broken down in the guidebook, and they can help you build stories. I kind of built one last night. Photos on my phone, unfortunately, so I don't remember it. But it's one that's kind of neat. Like, I think it was like a survivalist trying to find a hidden weapons cache nearby where there's a broadcast, like a transmission, but it will bring risks to his community, or something along those lines. It was really interesting, and I was going to try and do another one using some of the base deck cards because it gives you more options. But I guess I won't be able to do that on this. Maybe if I figure it out for another day, I'll do another live little go through of it. In that case, it will skip what that segment of this little live video is going to be and go on to my other big announcement. Only a couple people really close to me know that I'm working on this, but I am working on writing not just one, but 2 books for Welcome to the Wastes. One is kind of going to be, I could do a pre-recorded video. I might try and find a way to do that. I'll just toss that up on like the YouTube or something. Yeah, I'm going to be writing, going into the new year, I'm going to be writing 2 Welcome to the Wastes books. One is going to kind of be a pre-Wastes story that I'm not going to spoil any of the details, but it's going to kind of explore how everything happened from the perspective of a character who may or may not show up in the podcast itself. Although they will likely interact with some characters as they existed before the Wastes, which I'm excited to kind of play with. So that's going to be one, and that's the one that I'm really pouring a lot of work into at this exact moment. And the other one is going to be stories from the Wastes. So it's going to be various different short stories surrounding specific characters from the Wastes, written in different formats, and potentially with like one. I haven't decided if it's stories branching off from one specific event or it's stories branching towards a specific event. But they will be stories taking place in the Wastes. Maybe another story, a short story that's pre-Waste if it works. But as of yet, I haven't really planned too much on that. I've kind of got some ideas in mind for certain characters that I've already introduced through the podcast. But yeah, like right now, my focus is on the main pre-Waste story, just because it's buzzing in my head, and like the ideas I have for this, and like there's some Easter eggs that I really want to toss in there. If anyone's ever read the actual book for Ready Player One, Easter eggs are my jam because of that book, but also the fact that the first edition printings of that book had their own Easter egg built into the book, which I think was absolutely mind-blowing, and I would love to actually try and do something with this that might lead you to like hidden content or something like that. But that aspect is kind of in the future. In the meantime, I'm writing the story. And that brings me to the special surprise. So, this stream is going to be ending shortly, just because I don't really have much else to announce or to say going forward. When this stream ends, go check out the Welcome to the Words are fun. Go check out Welcome to the Wastes on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, wherever you can, to see or to listen to the first excerpt from the book. The way this story is being written, it is from the perspective of this character that you're going to be following through the story. And so I wrote, as I did with the podcast, I wrote a little prologue. And the prologue is part of the story. And I sat down, actually, was it yesterday? It was yesterday. My days blend together. I sat down yesterday and I recorded it. I did some fun editing, mixed up like a little backing track, and tossed it up. It is using one of the photos from the photo shoot with Corey, just because I felt the photo felt very fitting for this. It is a rough draft. It is, the final product will likely change and evolve between now and when I actually like am taking this book to try and really get it out there. But it is kind of a glimpse into the vibe I'm going for going into this book. So when I'm done this stream, go check it out. See, Corey already had it show up because as I've been recording this, I hit publish. I'm also going to be tossing up on YouTube and stuff like that, but that's after I was more concerned with just the audio of the podcast. And yeah, so like it's super exciting going forward, writing a book, writing more episodes of the podcast, recording more episodes of the podcast. I'd love to get more ideas for characters. I'm going to be using Story Engine to help me weave some more stories that I may not be able to come up with my regular brain meats. But yeah, the audiobooks are all written out there. Oh, absolutely. They will be recorded as audiobooks, for sure. And when it comes to that, I will probably announce more plans, because as much as they could be done as audiobooks, I would also love to do them just as audio dramas. But yes, when the books are written and out there, audiobooks will be going at the same time. Because, you know, if I'm going to do this thing for a podcast, I'm going to record an audiobook for it. So yeah, that's all I've really got for this little live stream for 2020, and welcome to the Wastes. You know, it's, like I said, it's been a wild ride so far. I'm really excited going forward, and I'm so happy to have the people in my life who are supporting me, who have, even if it's just offered words of support or just, you know, a like on a post. It's meant so much. And here's to 2021. Hopefully we'll see the other end of this pandemic, and we'll be able to go out, and I'll be able to publicize this more with the buttons. I didn't really attach this into the announcement about the buttons, but I'm also planning on doing stickers and like little prints. The stickers are more just to like stick on things when I go out. But yeah, that's it. Yeah, the next chapter's in the adventure. Oh, and I think a cat woke up. I don't know where she is. Oh well, I'll likely post a video of me with the cat to my story, if anyone's wondering. But yeah, hope you all enjoyed this first live stream. Ideally in 2021 I will do a couple more of these when I can figure out more things. I am looking to eventually set up some stuff with Twitch, maybe do like a live stream edit of an episode on Twitch or something like that. We'll see. Yeah, thank you for tuning in, and see you in the Wastes. Grimgrinner signing off. How do I stop this though? Goodbye. Before the story of how the world became this wasteland we now find ourselves in, I feel like one thing needs to be addressed. My name is unimportant. Call me Greg, Rob, or Ivan for all I care. But ultimately, whatever I was called in the old world doesn't matter. If we're clear on that, then let's get down to this story, shall we? Most of the stories that people clung to have been lost in the wake of everything that's happened all those years ago. They've either forgotten them in forging their new lives, or it's been forgotten with their death. But I guess that's why I'm telling this one to you, isn't it? Because at the end of it all, these stories are all we have, really. My story isn't too different from the ones that may still be floating out there.
The virus, then the riots and the bombs, watching the walls go up and the wastelands flourish.
It's something a lot of us remaining went through, and has started to turn into legend as the world changes and new generations start to grow, either with little memory of it, or born into this new world unaware of the grim reality of how we got here. Well, as simple as that story is, there's more that makes this one mine to tell. So let's go back to where this began. Well, where it began for me, at least. And remember, my name isn't important.